A very good morning and welcome. In conjunction with Educators Month UPM 2021, Bulan Pendidik Universiti Putra Malaysia 2021, Center of Academic Development CADe UPM has interesting topics of plenary addresses with great topics for this whole month. Rest assured, today's topic is going to be very sizzling and of great interest. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past 2 years, COVID-19 has impacted humanity tremendously and terribly affected various sectors of economies and the well-being of society in general. Despite that, there is a silver lining to COVID-19. It has shown that the human race is very resilient, and it really celebrated the spirit of sharing and caring with all the camaraderies, the kinship, the selflessness of individuals in this time, in these difficult times. So it is with this special excitement that I'm pleased to welcome Professor Dr. Zamri Sekawi to our online session this morning and to share this uplifting effect of COVID-19 with his address entitled COVID-19 from Disruption to Innovation. Do allow me to share a bit of info on Prof. Zamri Sekawi. Prof. Zamri Sekawi is a professor of medical microbiology and senior consultant clinical microbiologist and the dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, Universiti Putra Malaysia. His previous appointments included the Deputy Dean for Academic, the Deputy Dean for Research, the Head of Department, the Technical Officer for the World Health Organization based in Fiji, and the Visiting Scientist at the Burnet Institute in Melbourne, Australia. He is actively involved in research, especially in the field of virology, that is the study of virus. He had secured many international and national research grants amounting to more than 6 million ringgit. He had published extensively in more than 160 citation index journals and had authored several books. He had also graduated many PhD and MSc students. One of the major research projects that he had led was the multi-million research grant on tackling leptospirosis in Malaysia, which led to the understanding of the burden of this disease in Malaysia and also at looking into the role of various leptospirosis strains in outbreaks and advocating effective public health measures. He is actively involved in the Malaysian Society of Infectious Diseases and Chemotherapy, MSIDC, where he is the current president. Through his leadership, the society championed global issues such as influenza, antimicrobial resistance, and stewardship, and adult immunization. He had organized and chaired and co-chaired several major conferences such as the Asia Pacific Congress of Clinical Microbiology and Infections, the upcoming International Congress on Infectious Diseases, and several major national conferences. He is also the chair for the Malaysian Influenza Working Group within the MSIDC, where the focus group focuses on influenza prevention advocacy and strategies, particularly among the high-risk groups. This working group has been active in influenza prevention campaign at the national level and frequently appeared in newspaper and social media platforms. He is the executive committee member of the International Society for Infectious Diseases and also the Asia Pacific Society of Clinical Microbiology and Infections, as well as the member of the Asia Pacific Alliances for the Control of Influenza. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Zamri Sekawi.
Thank you, Dr. Manraj. Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Salam sejahtera, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Center for Academic Development, UPM, CADe, if you all know is CADe, and for inviting me to give this plenary. When I first received this invitation, it's like a plenary, so to me, maybe it's a big expectation on CADe side to give my thoughts on this to all of you. So I'll try my best to impart some of the opinions and my what you call that opinion on this. And first of all, I'd like to put a disclaimer here. I'm not an expert in education or IT, education philosophies or any information technology that is currently ongoing. I'm just going to cover a bit about it. But I'm a simple clinical microbiologist focusing on virology. And as you know, that COVID-19 pandemic is happening now, and I've been kept busy, particularly because I need to update myself frequently. And you're talking about updating every hour, reading journals, reading newspapers. I have to know what are the genuine news, what are the fake news on COVID-19. Because frequently reporters will call me and then ask my opinion about certain issues. And also I got invitation from TVs and radio show, talk shows. Sometimes I got from Singapore and also Vietnam even to give opinion on this. So it's really something that I have to update myself. And also I'm the dean, and of course this is a temporary post. Well, the good thing about being a dean is that I am able to look everything from a bigger picture, and therefore be able to guide our faculty members to where we want to go. Right? So that is about the disclaimer. As you know that COVID-19 is happening now. Currently, we have around more than 200 million cases and about 4.55 million deaths. This is as of last week. And the case fatality rate, CFR, is about 2.08, for meaning percent. So meaning that every 100 cases, 2 person will die because of this. So a bit, I can say that it's slightly on the higher side, but some other diseases are even higher. And a pandemic throughout the history is nothing new. It has been around since the birth of Nabi Isa or Jesus Christ. Before that, and we have a big plague, bubonic plague last time in the 14th century, where 200 million people died. And compared to the current pandemic, we have only like 4.55 million deaths. So it seems it's a bit tiny. And over the years, we have lots of pandemic throughout our lifetime. Maybe we have experienced pandemic on influenza and SARS, which is the first cousin of COVID-19. And now we have also Ebola and MERS. So all this pandemic is threatening us. And eventually, in future, we will expect more pandemics. So this is nothing new. So we just have to face it. Just a bit about the history on the pandemic. As you know that this pandemic happened in late 2019 when China reported in the mass media that they have identified virus, reported a mystery virus actually, where people come down with pneumonia in Wuhan, China, and eventually they have identified that as a coronavirus. When they mention coronavirus, everyone start to panic because this is something which is very different from the normal influenza pandemic that we have faced. So we don't know what to expect. And we thought about SARS frequently, which is creating havoc throughout the world. Unfortunately, the original SARS-1 was already extinct, and therefore it's not around. But now his cousin is now creating havoc. And people have been talking about where does this SARS coronavirus 2 or the COVID-19 disease come from? There are two theories. One is the spillover theory, and the other one is the lab leak theory. Spillover means that humans encroach into the jungles, and somebody got infected from the bats, and maybe there's an intermediate host. In this case, some postulate it's a pangolin, but eventually it was not. So something happened along the way when we encroach into the jungle and then get infected, and the virus are able to adapt to human, and eventually it spreads all over the world. Another theory is the lab leak theory, that in Wuhan, we have Wuhan Institute of Virology, and they were working on the coronavirus. And they're actually working on gain of function experiment, which is actually looking for more and more what they call that dangerous coronaviruses. For some reason they are doing that, and eventually maybe one of the technicians got infected, and then when this technician goes to the public and start infecting people. So that these are two theories. The spillover theory, it seems that it's a bit, because the bats are found in southern China, and Wuhan, you know, is in central China. So it's a bit difficult to explain why this happened in Wuhan. And that lead theory actually gains a lot of prominence now, and in fact China has been deeply offended by this. So we'll see which particular theory works. So that is the virology part. And as you know, in Malaysia, we have this COVID cases have been going down. When I last presented this last month in the conference, cases are picking up. Now it's going down, alhamdulillah. And also our deaths per million also are going down, as you can see from here, compared to our neighbors. And the fatality rate, if you look at the center of the slide, Malaysia's case fatality rate is about 0.73%, meaning that for every 1,007 people died. Is pretty good, pretty comparable to Thailand and so on. But Indonesia has a bit more there. Whereas our population has been fully vaccinated about 65% here, taking into consideration children and all that. So this is pretty good, and therefore cases has gone down. People say because of the vaccines. Now Delta is something you can see the 100% reported in Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam. This is if there is no Delta, we have already conquered the pandemic. Because of this Delta, it makes it more infectious, and therefore you can see that it's a different ballgame because of this Delta. So we don't know what's going to happen in future. Maybe there's an even more dangerous variant than Delta. So we hope that will not happen. According to this Bloomberg COVID-19 resilience ranking, there is a ranking here looking into selected countries, about 53 countries here. As you can see, Malaysia in orange, there you can see that initially we were doing very good, and then now we are at the bottom, almost at the bottom, number 51 out of 53. And this, so this ranking, if you look at on the right side, the top, the bottom 5 countries, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, they are all here in Southeast Asia. And they look at, in terms of people covered with vaccines, lockdown severity, flight capacity, vaccinated travel routes. So these are in the indicators how they look at it. And a lot more actually. This is just a summary. And they found out that we are at the bottom, but hopefully we will increase our resilience ranking later. So our government has been working very hard to tackle this, and have provided a lot of data, very open data that everyone can have a look at how many active cases, how many undergoing home quarantine, how many at CAC, hospitalized, ICU, and so on. So it's all for us researchers to analyze this data. Now, how long the pandemic is going to be? We don't know. The answer is we don't know, but hopefully somebody predicted about 4 to 5 years is a reasonable figure. So now we are in second year, maybe it's going to be another 2 or 3 more years. Now people are looking into transiting to eventually become an endemic disease for this. So endemic means that the disease are constantly present in the population, and the spread is relatively low, and it does not affect the healthcare system so much. So we are trying to get the disease to become endemic. So the issue here is how long? We don't know. Right, what I have learned from this pandemic as a virologist, it is not another bad flu. When it was first reported in late 2019, our impression then was, oh, it's just another bad flu, and it's when you say about flu, there's a seasonality, and during end of 2019 was winter, and we hope that the pandemic, but at that time was not pandemic, the cases goes down during summer, somewhere in the middle of the year, but that did not happen. So we know that this is something really different from influenza. And everything now is very unpredictable in terms of the signs and symptoms. When it was first presented, the patients present with respiratory diseases. And one thing is very prominent is the multi-organ involvement, which is not typical of influenza. And therefore, we know that this is something really bad, really worse than influenza. And the issue of long COVID, those who have recovered, they still have these signs and symptoms. Some presented with cough, some presented with confusion, and so on. So it's a long recovery. And also, in terms of autoimmune, it's a bit strange disease that is also affect our immune system. It make our own immune system attack our cells. So this is something which is really not good for us, and especially in children. But fortunately, during the earlier part, children was not really affected. So Alhamdulillah, that is a blessing that our children were not affected, just us and our old people. But now we see a lot of children affected. This is because of the evolution of the virus and the evolution of the variants. I say they fast in inverted commas there because coronavirus are not supposed to evolve fast enough, okay, compared to influenza. But it seems that because there are too many cases, and therefore we are starting to see a lot of these variants. And the vaccines that we have, in terms of durability, is still a question that whether how it's going to affect us. So in short, we are looking at a very long pandemic, a long haul pandemic. So everything is unpredictable. We don't know. Even though now we're seeing a decrease in cases, we don't know. In future, maybe there are more cases. So we pray for the best. Back in 2018, there was about 3 years ago, I give this plenary, this inaugural lecture. The title is Living Dangerously in a Virus World. Are we at the losing end? And I highlighted the fact that this world belongs to the virus and we are living along with them. And we have to be careful, and we have to put mechanism in place. In fact, the WHO also has put all the mechanism how to prevent pandemic, but it seems everything is on paper. When a pandemic comes, everything seems to be not that systematically done. So are we on the losing end? Probably, and hopefully not. And everyone is affected. You see that our economic growth has gone down in all countries, specifically all countries. The global economy has shrunk by 5% because of COVID-19. And people talk about whether you want to save lives or you want to save livelihood. So it's a big debate on how to put a balance between saving lives and saving livelihood. We don't want to be so engrossed into saving lives that we lock down totally the country, and many people are not able to put a decent meal on their table. So this is something the Ministry of Health and the government has to look at. The impact of COVID-19 on higher education around the world. This is a survey done by International Association of Universities on 4 continents there. And it seems that COVID-19 pandemic affected the institutions in 60% of the cases. All activities have stopped and institutions are completely closed. And 30% says that the institution were partially open, but there are major disruptions. So this is nothing surprising for us. And in terms of how enrollment, you look at, yes, it affects both local and international students. And how does COVID-19 affect teaching and learning? in red there, it's about 70% classroom teaching has been replaced by distance teaching and learning. Do you have infrastructure in place to easily communicate with students for updates on and information? Yes, the vast majority say yes. Has COVID-19 impacted your community engagement? So this is a bit strange. Even though COVID-19 has impacted higher education, but it has increased community engagement between universities and the community. And with regard to research, yes, about 80% says that it has affected. This is a local study looking into the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on university students' learning life. An interesting study. The daily hours of students spent on personal computer before COVID-19 lockdown, you can see that vast majority, about 50%, says that they have spent about 2 to 3 hours per day, and about 30% spend about 4 to 5 hours per day. Now, if you compare that with the one on the right, 10 to 11 hours, about 20%, and 8 to 9 hours, about 20%, and 6 to 7, another 20%. So basically, here students spend long hours on the PC compared to previously, which is nothing unusual. But the thing that to me, spending 10 hours on a computer is something which is unthinkable before this. While learning through online courses, do you feel overloaded or not? So of course, 70% says they are really overloaded, and they feel overloaded because of too many tasks, study tasks to do from lecturers, I suppose, giving too many tasks. And during COVID-19 lockdown, got angry and lost my temper easily. This is some of them have done that, and also misfortune and stress, unable to control my stress. Sometimes it's about 60%. So this is something that we are really scared of. We give our students lots of assignments and all that, so they are really burdened and stressful. And when they explore this, my stress feelings during COVID-19 is because, number one, pressure because of mainly online tasks. I myself also guilty of this, giving my students a lot of tasks. I didn't expect the other lecturers also have been giving their students a lot of tasks. So cumulatively, we have burdened our students. Limited and weak internet connection. Yes. Unfamiliar study environment is something that we need to look at. Limited resources relevant to subjects, and worry to be one of the COVID-19 victims. What about students' response of being motivated by university? Yes, most universities have given this motivation programs and support. And they also, vast majority, manage the stress independently. What about question being with families during COVID-19 lockdown? Slight majority says that it is difficult and challenging to pay attention to my study, being with the family, and they cannot study very well in about 20%. Only about 28% says that allows them to focus on my study. So being with a family, actually, vast majority says it's not that good. And here there are some things that we can do. We need to motivate our students to develop self-confidence and also solve any simple technical problem. One thing that we need to focus on the quality of the online learning platform interface in terms of interactivity, ease of use, and students' enjoyment for completing the learning tasks. And our lecturers also needs to be assist on updating and redesigning the teaching plans. And the role of students, family members, the families, how they can assist. So this is something that, at least on my side, did not look at it. We also need to get the families involved in creating a better learning environment and reduce online tasks. This is something at faculty level can do to minimize that. So what this has taught us is that we need to adapt swiftly. The current scenario has involved a rapid pedagogical shift from traditional to online class sessions, from personal to virtual instructions, or seminars to webinars. So a lot of transformation there. When the pandemic was first announced and we have our lockdown last year, we are actually facing a lot of problem in terms of our lecturers were not familiar on how to give these online class sessions. I myself actually are very familiar with Zoom even before the pandemic, because we used to have our online video conference meeting with my society, international society. So you have one person from US having meeting in the morning, and myself in Malaysia at night, and my colleague in Australia and New Zealand 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning having meetings. So we're not too bad. This is something that we have expected. So right now, institutions of higher education are undergoing radical transformation. There is a need to digitalize the education, and we need to also design training processes in record time for our academics who lack innate technological capabilities for online learning, teaching. Sorry. All this disruptive educational innovation has started to replace existing methodologies, and we have to explore new alternatives for learning. And all this, like for example, innovation in teaching methods. We need to look for more new learning materials, mechanisms, spaces, and even transformation of students' role. Last time, they used to listen to us and they just absorb whatever we have taught them, and then during exam they will regurgitate whatever they have learned, and that's it. And now they have to play a different role. How and what kind of methodologies that they are familiar with and they are interested in, and we also need to know what their needs are. So these new things need to be learned and relearned quickly. Now we are giving lectures via video conferences, sharing materials, interacting through chats, debates, and so on. And whether to choose synchronous or asynchronous teaching methods. How do you maintain students' attention? That is something which is really challenging. And what are the methodologies for the interactions of students and professors, and to engage students in peer collaborations? How to make sessions dynamic, collaborative, and formative tools. And we have to teach our lecturers also how to design audio-visual material and plan students' work time, and also the right tools for each activity. So all this something that we have to really learn. And of course, there are barriers and challenges. We have technical problems happening during our lectures. And this is very stressful for academics. Even professors, we are old professors like me. It takes time to understand all this. And whenever there's a technical problem, we don't dare to really solve it ourselves. So we have to call people to help us. And this online education can amplify the digital divide. And this is not for students only, even for our academics, the know-how and the don't know how. So this is something interesting that we can look at. And difficulty to maintain attention. It's always a big problem with online learning. They switch off the camera and we don't know whether they are there, whether they are doing something else, or they are really listening to us. And only me, the lecturer, are turning on the video, and the rest are just sitting down there, relaxed, and maybe they're just doing something else. We don't know. These have distractions, boredom, sense of isolation, and so on. All right. So higher education actually are already ripe for disruption. Then COVID-19 happened. What it does is it accelerates the disruption. And before the pandemic, we were talking about Industry 4.0. I'm sure everyone knows what Industry 4.0 is. We start with 1.0 with mechanization, steam power, and so on. 2.0 is the mass production assembly line, electrical energy, and 3.0 is automation, computers, and electronics back in 1969. Now everything about Internet of Things, networks, physical systems. So all this, I think everyone is very familiar with: autonomous robots, simulation, system integration, cybersecurity, cloud computing, and so on. So all these buzzwords are Industry 4.0. And we have to know that COVID-19 actually accelerates it. So this is a nice write-up about what's going to happen in education in post-COVID world, maybe next year. So there are 6 ways tech could transform how we teach and learn. So the first one says that online learning will increase access and invites a wide array of learners. You like it or not, online learning will be here to stay with us, and it will be a core component in education and teaching. Learning management systems for us, we have the Putra Blast, help teachers to deliver online lessons, share reading materials, and grade assignments. All this is a very important platform. And of course, MOOCs has been around in UPM, and we are seeing a renewed interest now. And after school learning and tutoring is also picking up. Virtual and augmented reality has been around even before pandemic. I heard stories about this, how VR and AR actually helps us in learning and engagement. At that time, it seems that we still in the infancy stage. Even our iPhones and all that have this VR and AR, but I don't really use it. I don't know how to use it. So this is going to be the future. That the main goal is that it will increase engagement by bringing learning to life. VR can create an immersive 3D environment, and AR will be able to superimpose digital elements of visual sounds and text in the user's surroundings. So this is something which is workable for highly technical fields like medicine or military. So I will explain more about this shortly. Biometrics, facial recognitions could help students stay focused and improve safety. Biometrics and facial recognitions involves like the scanning of body parts, eyes, fingerprints, and facial features. Not only to identify individuals, but also to know whether students are paying attention in class or not. There are certain universities who use this facial recognition technology to look at students' attentiveness, of course, through their facial expressions. If the student lose focus, it will either alert the students and give them a pop quiz appearing on their computer, or that will alert the lecturer, and the lecturer has to change the teaching style. So this is something interesting that you can do. Gamification, use games elements to make learning interactive. When I thought of gamification, only Kahoot comes to my mind. I think we have Kahoot fatigue already, too much Kahoot for the students. Now we have to explore something else. Here, the idea is how to increase learners' motivation and engagement by incorporating game designs, elements, storytelling, problem solving, batches, levels, points. It's a lot of planning, a lot of work here. And the idea is to get our students to really engage, and more importantly is to retain knowledge effectively. And students can also receive instant feedback and foster a spirit of healthy competition among them. Next one is AI, artificial intelligence, enables data-driven decisions to increase efficiency and save costs. This will help personalize learning, improve memory retention, teach languages, and increase accessibility to lessons. We have AI-enabled chatbots. This is also very useful to increase student engagement. Can also act as teachers' virtual assistants by helping answering frequently asked questions for students and so on. Talking about chatbots, maybe my personal experience is to interact with the Asia chatbots whenever there's something happening, something problem with my reservation or all that, they ask us to speak to this chat box, and I think it's very quite impressive. It seems. So I don't know whether it's AI enabled, but definitely the chatbots are something that we can work on. Smart campus tags leverages devices and data for a connected experience. UPM has mentioned this as well, wanting to be a smart campus. So what it means is that it's a digitally connected space where devices and data come together to provide a more intuitive learning experience to students. So basically all devices connected to a single network, and it takes a lot of technological preparation and also planning on part of the education of UPM. So a lot of planning, a lot of cost involves. One thing which is highlighted is that there may be privacy issues and also tracking issues. You want to track where the student goes, example, so or privacy issues. Well, all these technologies and all that, I just want to relate to you how we teach medicine. A long time ago, when I was a medical student, we have these face-to-face lectures and practical sessions. We have real anatomy dissection, real people. This is actually a long time ago when they teach anatomy during medieval times. It's the same. But the difference maybe we use formalin, we preserve the cadaver, and then we do the section. And put the skeleton in the closet is really a skeleton. When I was a medical student, we were given bones or real bones from our seniors. So I remember I kept one femur for me to learn about the muscle attachment, cartilage, and all that. So it's very important to know all this and put that in my closet. And when I graduated, I passed it to my juniors. Of course, textbook is really important. Real patients is also our textbooks. We have to go to library to borrow books and search for journals. You know, it's really a pain to write a dissertation or to write a write-up when you have to look for journals, because journals then is on hard copy. You have to search under this index medicus, which is really thick volume and very fine writing. Okay, and they will tell you, oh, this is the journals that you need to look at. And on the library, you need to find out where the journal is, which shelf. So by when you identify the shelves, locate the shelves, and try to look for that journal, is missing. That's the only book, the only journal edition that is missing on that part. The previous ones were there, but that particular part is really missing. So it happens to me many times, and it's really a pain. Now, the new norm of learning medicine is really have plenty of educational resources, all a finger click away. And this forces us to rethink the medical training. Yeah? Are we going to burden our students to put in all the anatomical facts, the physiology facts, which is eventually they may not use it most of the time when they practice their clinical, whereas they can just easily look at it in any of these educational resources. So we have visual anatomy, we have visual physiology, we have visual clinical sessions, clinical simulations, standardized patients or simulated patients. These are not patients, they are actually normal people, but we get them to act like patients. Patient is schizophrenia, for example, so they have to act like one. In fact, we have last time collaborated with faculty of Bahasa Modern. They have fantastic students who can act and cry, cry and simulate a patient who is very distressed and all that. So very interesting. And now we have webinar for all, meaning that we can engage medical students from other universities to join teaching or something like that. And a virtual community engagement. Now we can talk to someone in Kampong and then get the community leaders to connect them to us virtually. So all this is a new norm in learning medicine. Teaching anatomy without cadavers, as I mentioned earlier, that we learn from real bodies. Now we can use VR and AR, and they have these 3D cinematic renderings of CT scans and MRI scans superimposed with that. The idea of learning anatomy is to also, identify the anatomical points identified in the CT scans, MRI scans, or X-rays. So let's make it more clinical. We have plastinations, which are actually human cadavers that preserved with plastic resins, and they can identify the muscles and the nerves as well as the blood vessels really, really well. And this actually helps the students to learn anatomy relevantly in context of diseases and clinical practice. Big data also is used in learning medical education and patient care. Big data here refers to getting broad access to patient care data, and how do you connect the curriculum to physician practice or to medical students practice. They can alert the physician that, okay, you have this maybe deficiency in certain diseases or in certain way of history taking, so that will alert you, and the physician can practice on that. So this is something that AI can be used as a mechanism to replace the lecturers to tell us what our deficiencies are. Simulation is the way to go. Here at the center is our simulations on childbirth. You can see that our doctors there demonstrating to the students how to do childbirth. During my time, I have to go to hospitals and do 20 real childbirths, and that's how we get our skills. Now, because of privacy issues, because of too many students and not many patients consent to allow students to do this, so we have to resort to this. And more importantly, like diseases like conditions like breech delivery, where the lower limbs comes first instead of the head. So how do you manage that? So we can simulate this in these mannequins here, and how to teach our students to do suturing and even operating. So this is something that you need to know. Digitalization of health services and training now is really undergoing a radical transformation in terms of telemedicine and virtual consultation. The doctors are no longer required to be physically present in front of the patients. They can do this virtually. Our psychiatrists can actually do a visual consultation on a patient in the US, for example. And also there's a role of artificial intelligence here. MySejahtera is a really good example of how they digitalize everything. And you can see that in MySejahtera, you find a lot of data. So you wonder that what are they going to do to the data. They can actually track you where you have checked in, which shops is what is your favorite shop, or your favorite restaurants, and when you go there, how frequent you go there. So this thing, maybe with AI and with all this tracking technology, they can give your profile, what kind of profile that you face. So this is something interesting. And now we have this global sharing of data. In fact, COVID-19 has, the data is really tremendous because a lot of scientists all over the world sharing data. You have databases of variants, for example, databases of the viruses being isolated, and they put it on the public data. And it's easily for me as a scientist to analyze and publish from there. And we're not talking about only one sharing platforms, numerous sharing platforms, and none are really standardized at the moment. That's why you find a lot of funny names like B217.6 and P1, and you have the Delta. All these are from different platforms. They're looking at radical transformation, and standardization is really something that they have not looked into. Robotic surgery, you can see here Dato' Khairul, is our consultant neurologist. We have our Da Vinci and our Hospital Pengajar UPM on the right side. Robotic surgery, that is him at the bottom there, doing on the system, just like playing games there. And on the top right, we can see him displaying peace sign there. Is the patient, and you see robots doing the surgery. So he's playing on the console, and the robots are doing the work. You can see on the left side. So these robots are extremely good at places whereby the access to the anatomical areas are very difficult. And one thing is really interesting is that Dato' Carol need not need to be in these settings. He can be overseas doing it. Here, the patient are here in UPM, but he can be in the US using the same console to operate on the patient. Right? This is something that really the future, and also ease of webinar as mentioned earlier. So there are several innovations, 12 innovations that will change healthcare and medicine in the 2020s. Just briefly on this, so that I can impart the impression that really medicine is transforming. We have drone delivered medical supplies. This is ongoing. You can see in the West they have been doing this, and you can get order your pills from the hospital, and they can send you through drone. We have the biggest big data in healthcare, and the AI has actually transformed everything. From AI, you can use that as for image analysis, for drug discovery, clinical trials, so many numerous things you can do on AI. Stem cell cure for diabetes. Diabetes used to be an unincurable disease, but now we are looking into stem cells, which can be cultured, and they can form pancreas cells that can help us to cure diabetes. Personalized medicine, people have been talking about this, meaning that in terms of the genes, everyone is different. So we can design different personalized diagnostics. We can design different therapy for different people, okay, based on their genes. So this is also a transformation. Disruptive approach to cancer therapy. Those days we used to just give chemotherapy, but now we have specific, we call it targeted therapy, which are drugs or what do you call it, antibodies designed to bind to specific targets, receptor targets on the cell. So in this case, they only kill the cancer cells, not the normal cells, because chemotherapy will kill all healthy cells as well as cancerous cells. But this is really specific. Wearables. Many of us wear these wearables, the watches, smart watches, iWatch, and so on. And the idea here is that it can help us to monitor our health. Like for example, some of it can do ECG, electromyograph, can monitor your heart rate, and even your oximeter can monitor your oxygen levels, blood pressure. So these are things really coming in. Pocket-sized ultrasounds, something that ultrasounds is a machine available in clinics or hospitals, but now you can carry it in your pocket, and then you can view it in your iPhone. Okay, this is really interesting. Can bring it, or doctors can bring it to kampongs and so on. Cancer diagnostic AI, you can use AI to alert the doctor. They did a study here. The AI-based approach seems to be more accurate than other methods. So AI can actually help us to identify cancer early, and therefore we can have early therapy. This is for us academics, AI to read every science paper or every scientific paper and tell us what's happening. So it will be interesting because for me, COVID-19, I'm forced to read every day all these new publications that I've subscribed and all that. So I get every morning get notification from all these Elsevier and New England Journal of Medicine. They have the latest updates in COVID-19. So I wish that we have this AI can tell me, okay, this is going to happen. This has happened last week. Summarize everything for me. So actually the platform is already available here. Iris.ai and Semantic Scholar, but I have no experience. I've not get a chance to actually explore this. Maybe after this, I have more free time, then look at this, how this can help us. And 3D digital hearts is something that is a personalized way to look at our blood vessels that can alert us on whether our coronary arteries are starting to shrink or starting to be blocked or not, and alert our cardiologists to do something about it. Neuro rehabilitations and VR, so virtual reality can be used here for those who have neurological deficits on their hands, on the limbs, on stroke patients. They can use these rehab techniques. It's something they look at something there. It's under virtual reality, but actually there's nothing. So this can help them to improve. So Malaysian is facing digitalization, and lots of things that we can do on this. There are three key fundamentals that must be addressed. We should have a fast, affordable broadband. We have talent to digital progress, and high digital adoption. So this relates to us in academia to how to address these fundamentals. 5G technology is coming. We have 5G phones here in Malaysia, but we are not optimizing it. What 5G means is that you can download a 2-hour movie in just 3.6 seconds, compared to 4G is about 6 minutes. Of course, it depends on where you are. A lot of potential uses of 5G technology in terms of agriculture. We have precision timing. We have self-driving vehicles, in education of VR classrooms. In healthcare, we have remote diagnosis and consultation services. We have robotics and so on. So many potential usage of these 5Gs. And people have been talking about smart hospital as well, where there are data gathering and analytics and interconnected access to data, and also autonomous actions. In Malaysia, we have this ranking in the Digital Quality of Life Index, where Denmark, South Korea, and Finland top 3, and Malaysia actually was ranked at number 31. So the ranking is based on internet affordability, internet quality, electronic infrastructure, electronic security, and internet government. So we are best in these criteria: cyber security index, online service index, and artificial intelligence readiness index. And government needs to look into this broadband speed growth, mobile speed, and more broadband internet affordability. Our sister ministry, Ministry of Education, has also embarked on this digital education. This is a platform called DELIMA, Digital Educational Learning Initiative Malaysia. I'm not too familiar with this. Maybe our education colleagues will be able to explain more. This aim is to make education accessible for all. There are free softwares to all teachers and students. It's supported by the giants, Google, Microsoft, and Apple. And here is to empower and prepare people for lifelong learning and future skills and competencies in Malaysia. So moving forward, we need to prepare our current students here for tomorrow's world. You can see that the world is rapidly changing. So we need to assess whether what we are teaching our students now, is it relevant when they graduate later on in next year or in 4 years' time. As for us here in the medical faculty, we have to rethink about our health professionals, training of our health professionals of tomorrow. You can see I've explained to you the healthcare system is really transforming and is becoming a different animal compared to what I was trained before. So we have to think whether radical transformation of the curriculum is really necessary, and how do you get our graduates to be tech ready, and technological innovations. Is this going to be taught in universities? what we call as techpreneurs. So this, if you don't teach our students to do all these technological innovations, or think about this, or give them experience or awareness, they are going to be left behind. Because right now, innovations are happening. 5Gs, the IT, AI, VR, AR, all these are just tools. But the best person will be those who are able to use these tools to apply in their daily lives. So that's where the technological innovators comes in. So the question now is, who is going to teach them to become technological innovators or techpreneurs? Us, isn't it? So moving forward, again, UPM, this is 5 strategi utama memacu UPM sebagai menara ilmu. Number 1, memacu pertanian berteknologi tinggi. Number 2, membangun karakter graduan UPM. Number 3, melagang kampus pintar dan pendigitalan. Number 4, mendukung kelestarian institusi mapan. Dan number 5, menatang pembudayaan norma baharu. Jadi, number 1 and number 3, you can see that is related to the radical IT transformation that I've mentioned just now, which is really relevant. So a bit about the end game of COVID-19. People have been excited about transiting into the endemic. So what does it mean? Now we have the COVID-19 vaccine, and we need a therapeutic and also prophylactic tablets. Now, just recently, Ministry of Health has engaged a company to have access to a new antiviral, which is given orally. So that comes under therapeutic there, which has been missing since the pandemic. So this is really exciting because if you feel you are unwell and let's say you are tested positive, you do a home testing and it's positive, you can just take this tablet and inshallah you get better. So that is really exciting on how to treat yourself on this. What is more exciting if we have a prophylactic, meaning that if let's say in your household there's somebody who is positive, so you just also can take the medicine and prevent yourself from getting the virus in addition to the vaccine. And we have to understand that the virus is permanently here with us, it's going to be with us. So that's how we have to live with it. Hopefully in future we have decreased hospitalization, decreased death, but the virus is still circulating and mutating. Eventually we have herd immunity, but if there is any immune escape variants, we can tackle that by adapting our vaccines and also a booster dose. And we predict that it's going to be an reinfect cycle. We are infected and then you are immune and then you are reinfected again. So this is something which is happening like the coronaviruses that we currently have previously, which are actually very mild. What we need to do now is to protect the virus. Eventually, along the way, it may become cold coronavirus infections, particularly in children. So this is my last slide, conclusion. There's a silver lining in the pandemic. What this mentioned by Dr. Manraj just now. And this pandemic has been a great reset. Everything is reset. Everything forces during lockdown. It forces us to really think about what is this pandemic all about. It forces us to ponder, reflect on what's happening, and are we going to just cry there and do nothing, or we adapt and come with new things, and that's how you even survive. Resilient species. Also now we have innovations at really lightning speed. Everything is changing rapidly. We academics, we should not be left behind. We should try to also embrace these technologies and foresee the future, what's going to happen, and use these technologies at our advantage. So there's a great digital transformation happening, and we should also think of our students, how we can help them. This mantra, publish or perish, has been around when I started joining as an academic in UPM long time ago. You have to publish or you perish. Okay. Now maybe the new keyword is innovate or perish. Right? I think it's really important now that we have to innovate. We have to teach our students how to innovate. And this is really a great mindset reset that we need to undergo. This is kind of like a paradigm shift. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for your kind attention. So I hope that it gives you a very important message that the world is transforming rapidly and we should not be left behind. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you very much, Prof. Zamri, for the enlightening session, and it's very interesting. So to all participants, you have any questions, please either unmute and ask the question, or if you're too shy, just use the chat box and ask your question. So to kickstart with, Prof, thank you very much for your session. It really shows that COVID-19, as what Dr. Farid had said, the hikmah di sebalik COVID-19, it is like a reset button where you have to reset your mind and you have to celebrate transformation of transformation of yourself as a human being. And to kickstart the question is, I really like to ask that you said that education is being accelerated with this because of COVID-19, and they are embracing technology at a very quick pace. My question is, what is the danger of we really moving forward very quickly in terms of technology in education? How about inclusivity and equity aspect of it? Are we not challenging those equity and inclusivity aspect?
Of course, thank you very much for that question. Very, very relevant question. During the pandemic, then we realized that not everyone are the same. Some are really advanced in terms of technology. Some are living in the urban areas. Everything is around them. We have 4Gs and all that. But on the other side, we have people who are living in kampongs and living in really remote areas. We have students. We read in the papers that they have to climb trees to assess the what they call it, signal, the phone signal, and also we have to travel like few kilometers per day just to have the signal. So this is something, equity and also affordability that the government has to address. On our side, we cannot be those who are so-called at the bottom. We cannot be waiting for them. We also first has to really progress and embrace it, and hopefully they will catch up. That will be I think the responsibility of the government to look at it, to make sure that the access is broad and everyone benefits from it. But on our side, in academia, where everything is here, we also should not be left behind. And I'm sure in other disciplines, engineering, in whatever, they have also radical transformation. So if you don't embrace this, I'm sure that we'll be left behind. It's not about, of course, the role of the academic is really vast. You need to publish, you need to teach, you need to innovate, everything. So I'm not sure what is the best way. We don't want to also overload our academics on all this. So we cannot be master of all. Maybe some of us may have to look at it, be a master innovator or something like that, and the rest will tackle the others. So I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yes, it did very much. Yes, is that it taught us that we have to think about inclusivity and equity as well, not only moving forward at a rapid pace, but also thinking of everyone, bringing everyone moving forward together. I guess if you have any other question, participants, please just ask or drop in the chat. I have another question, Prof. Very nice. It could be considered like a hot question, soalan panas untuk sesi Jumaat ni. I was just thinking, that's what you are saying, that it's very, very important to really to move with technology and move at a fast pace. So as your position as a leader, as a dean of a faculty, how do you ensure the sustainability of the future in the teaching and learning at the faculty moving forward by embracing all this technology in education? So
Yeah, again, a very challenging question.
sorry, Prof. Sebab tu soalan panas ya. Yeah, because I was just wondering at the leadership role as, because I guess I believe that the educators are trying the level base, but how would leaders at the position of where they are, how do they ensure the sustainability future of this so we are not burnt out by itself, as what you say?
Yeah, very good question. Now, I'll give you an example. Traditionally, we teach our students to see patients, train to see patients, treat patients, and how to communicate with patients and all that. So this is traditional. But now we look at Uberization. They call it Uberization of healthcare, digitalization of healthcare. They're having this, like for example, a lot of platforms now. How do you book doctors online, visual consultation, and a lot more. You can think of so many things. Even you can book physical therapies and a lot more. But all these ideas, how to do this and that, we do not teach our students. So some students are very street smart. Maybe they are inclined into entrepreneurship. When they graduate, they have this business mindset and all that, and they will survive. But for us, in order to get our doctors to be like this, we should not only teach them how to look patients, treat patients, and all that. They have to think of how also to improve the economy of the country by also involving in businesses. Like for example, we don't teach our students how to open a clinic. Nowadays, you see that a lot of clinics, but then the other side of clinics, for example, is they form a group, and then they even have like shares and all that. Put in a bursa and all that. So that kind of thinking actually doesn't come from us. It comes from businessmen. So it means that the businessman uses doctors for this particular purpose, right? Or even use IT people and doctors to work together, come out with a healthcare platform, right? So this is why can't a doctor actually do all this? Gather all the resources and then form a business. In the long run, it will benefit the country. We are not talking about Malaysian market. We're talking about even international market, regional market, because this health tourism is a booming market. People comes to Malaysia from overseas just to be treated, because we have fantastic doctors who have consultants here, surgeons, which are very well trained, and they love to come to Malaysia because it is relatively cheaper than from their own country. So they come here to get treated. So all this actually, the doctors can handle it as a businessman, not the typical businessman using doctors to do all this. So it requires a lot of thinking on our side as well to foresee what is going to happen in future. In future, maybe our doctors can remotely operate on a patient in the US, by using Internet of Things and things like that. So this is really exciting, and as well as we need to rethink how we train our doctors. So that is the challenge. Like being a dean, you need to have a crystal ball, and see not only doctors but also biomedical scientists and also dietitians and our nutritionists.
Yeah. Correct, Prof. Thank you very much. I guess because of time, we have one last question from Dr. Fadlina, the Timbangalang Pengarah CADe. Prof, can you give some tips on how do we best work collaboratively in transdisciplinary projects? Because innovation is part of it, right? So marries smart digitalization to solve human problems. So yes, Prof, what's your take on that? On how do we best work collaboratively in transdisciplinary projects?
Yeah. Again, very interesting question here. Getting our people to collaborate intra-discipline is really a big challenge, even in my own faculty about this. Maybe in order for collaboration to work, it has to be what do you call that? Chemistry must be there. Chemistry. We cannot simply get, okay, you work with this guy. Huh? Sometimes it works, most of the time doesn't work, right? First of all, they have to have same passion and same aim, same vision and mission, and the same interest, so that they actually can work together really well. And therefore, really, I agree. We have to mix the IT people in the faculty of computer sciences and all that, and those like us who work in healthcare, how we can work together and come up with something. So this is something that maybe at higher level we can organize something who are interested in working in a particular project. So a lot of things. I mentioned earlier AI, and which is really interesting. So I don't have a proper answer for that. It all depends to human factors whether they can work together or not to collaborate.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Prof, sorry, I got one more question. Now it's going to be different. I'm not going to do the question. I'll invite Dr. Farid to ask his question. Yeah, Dr. Farid, sorry. Yeah. Okay, I forgot about it, but no, seriously. Yes, just
no worries. I thought they skip because I'm not the deputy dean of CADe.
Oh no. You are also equally important.
No worries. Okay, nonetheless, I have only one question, Prof. Thank you. I just want to ask, because I always keep telling my students, like what you mentioned earlier, that all of this innovation, behind all these technologies or IT whatsoever, there's always human. So how on earth that we want to ensure that all this transformation will keep us humanized rather than transform our good and high quality of human values? Meaning, sekarang ni we always hear that everything we blame on the technology. So how on earth we can ensure this, Prof? Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Maraj.
No problem, Dr.
Sorry, I don't really get your question, Dr. Farid. Can you just put it in one word?
Okay, all right. Behind all this tech, all this innovation, there is human.
Yep.
How we want to make sure that we humanize the technology, not the other way around.
Okay, correct. So
we don't want to lose our human values because of that.
Okay, got it. Right. So thank you for the question. Really interesting question. Humanizing. Of course, when you talk about technology, we have always to put the human element there. We don't want a technology that tackles certain things, but actually affects the other side, the social aspect of it. So it has to be looked from a very comprehensive perspective, and that's why a collaborative effort is really important. We should not actually work in silo. We have to take into consideration the other disciplines as well. For medicine, for example, we always take the social aspect seriously. Because whenever there's a technology, no matter how good it is, like for example, just now you do surgery, remote surgery, the social aspect also needs to be tackled. And no matter how advanced it is, everything should also take social aspect into consideration. I actually realized that, and that's why everything we have to sit down and look at things that what are the potential impact on our society. No, the impact on society actually from the social side is also as important as improvement in healthcare. So that is what we learned from the pandemic. You don't, the purpose is to save life, but if you do lockdown, you affect people's livelihood. So that's, we save life, but people are affected. So find a balance. That is really a challenge.
That's the hikmah, Prof. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Prof. Thanks a lot.
All right. So thank you very much, everyone. And thank you very much, Prof. Zamri, for spending your precious times with us. This wraps up this morning session. So yeah, the take-home message is change is here to stay. So how do we adapt, adopt, and transform ourselves is very important. As sebab hari ni kan Jumaat, so as dalam surah Al-Anfal ayat 74, they talk about berhijrah kepada kebaikan. So this COVID-19 has the kebaikan that we reflect ourselves and berhijrah kepada an individual who is much better than the previously. So with that, thank you very much. Before I leave, just want to remind you, towards the end of this month, 21st to 26th October, we have International Putra Innovative Creative Teaching and Learning Conferences, PICTEL 2021. Abstract submission is still open, and the due date is on the 18th of October. So I really request anyone who's interested, please do submit and share your innovative teaching and learning creative experiences during COVID-19 with us. So I'll share the link in the chat box here. All right. So thank you very much. You have a very good day, and salam Jumaat semua.
Thank you, Prof. and Dr. Manraj.